What's that word you use?
Spoilers.
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 Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers.
I like that word.
I thought you might.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Review Who, and today we will be looking at The Rescue. But just before I do, I would like to talk about the Manchester bombings. I wrestled as to whether I should make a video or not today out of respect, but after seeing the people of Manchester banding together and life carrying on as normal, the true spirit of British keep calm and carry on really made me realise that I should. With so many young people at that concert, I'm sure some of them must have been Doctor Who fans, but to all of those who died and those who survived and all the families, this video is dedicated to them. The Rescue is again one of those stories that I've not watched many times. Not for any particular reason, I've just not rewatched it that much. However, in rewatching it for this review, I realised that this is one of these stories that again makes me think, why don't I watch this more often? It's really good. And I think the largest reason for this is that it's only a two-parter. With the previous only two-part story in the series being the very strange and not so popular Edge of Destruction, The Rescue brings back the shorter story idea and really makes it work. As previously mentioned, this story is only a two-parter, but for me, that's really what makes this story so great. A large problem with early Doctor Who stories is the fluctuating episode count and how that affects the stories themselves. Some stories have quite a few parts, but the pacing of them manages to keep what's happening on screen interesting, whilst others, unfortunately, do have their dull moments. But an overriding factor I've noticed is the less parts there are, the better the story and episodes tend to be. There's no filler, because there isn't any room for any, and the less number of episodes means there is more packed into them, and it keeps the audience interested. The story itself revolves around the TARDIS crew answering a distress signal, finding a crashed ship, but then also finding out that things are not quite as they seem. Pretty standard stuff for Doctor Who. But the more interesting points of this story are some of the firsts it presents us with. Firstly, we are introduced to a new companion in the form of Vicky.
Vicky, are you going to come with us?
Yes, if you'll have me.
Well, she does feel like a bit of a replacement for Susan in these episodes, and in fact originally the producers asked Maureen O'Brien to dye her hair black in order to resemble Susan more. The character does develop in future stories, and she's a perfect example of whilst companions come and go, none of them have ever been replacements. Also, we get the first mention of the Doctor having been somewhere before.
Well, I must say, it'd be rather nice to meet these friendly people again after all these years.
And also the idea that the TARDIS doesn't land, it materialises.
Then we have landed.
Yes, excuse me, materialised I think is the better word.
I've given a lot of praise to this story already, so it's worth saying in the interest of fairness that this story does have its bad acting moments at times. The stating the obvious scene at the end of the first episode with Doctor and Ian stands out as an example of this.
Doctor! They're pushing me towards the edge!
But overall, the acting of those on screen is very good, particularly Ray Barrett's portrayal of the character of Bennett. His chilling explanation behind his motives is a quite dark and well-played scene.
I killed a crew member on a spaceship to Astra.
And as far as other action in this story goes, it is packed with many tense and dramatic moments. However, if I had to pick any particular scene which really sticks with me, it's not in fact any moment of action or sudden dramatic twist. It's a relatively small but still somewhat emotional scene at the beginning of the first episode, when the Doctor absent-mindedly asks Susan for help before realising she isn't there anymore.
Susan,
What makes this scene great for me is it's a rare early example of how this grouchy old man character is still as susceptible to emotional loss as any other character in the show. And the understanding comfort both Ian, but more particularly Barbara, show him really goes to show that despite their rough start, they really have become friends who are really there for each other.
Doctor, why don't you show me how to open the doors?
Yes, my dear, of course, yes.
Earlier in this review, I talked about how this story introduces to many firsts, But outside the world of Doctor Who, these firsts also extend to the production of the show itself. It's well worth reading up on, but for the purposes of this video, I will only be concentrating on two that interest me the most. Firstly, the second part of this story was the first ever Doctor Who episode to reach the UK's top 10 most watched programmes, with 13 million people tuning in to watch it. And secondly, the first episode has the first ever occasion where the sound of the TARDIS rematerialising is laid over the footage of it doing so. Before this, other episodes had seen the TARDIS arrive soundlessly, and although it would be many more years before its precise materialisation sound with that classic final thudding noise would be finalised in The Three Doctors, this story marks an important point in the history of the show. Without this element introduced in this story, all future scenes of the characters hearing the TARDIS before they see it may never have happened. Put simply, The Rescue is a story well deserving of a viewing. Not only does it present us with firsts in the history of the show, at only being 2 parts long, at no point does it feel dull or drawn out. If you ever find yourself with an hour to spare and not sure what to do or watch, then watch this story. I promise you, you won't regret it. And that brings to a close another Review Who. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, favourite, subscribe, share, it really helps me a lot, and be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. There is an exclusive webcomic and rewards for people who support it, and the funding generated by my Patreon helps me fund future videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.